This exercise is going to come from the first two chapters in our textbook. The first half will be from Chapter 1 on timing, and the second half will cover slow in and slow out from Chapter 2. We're going to begin on page 2 by setting up the ball bouncing timing exercise. This will show us how to set up our document and then move into creating the ball and then animating it on the timeline. So let's get started. After launching Adobe Animate, the first thing we want to do is to set up our document. From here, we can go to the width and the height, and let's type in 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall. As far as the frame rate goes, we'll set that to be 24 frames per second, and we're going to keep our platform type as being ActionScript version 3. You can click on Create, and this will create our new document. Now, if you're working on a small screen like mine, you may want to zoom in so you can see the entire work area. To do this, look at the very top right-hand corner of your stage and select Fit in Window or Show Frame. Either one will allow you to zoom out and see your entire work area. Also at this time, we can go to File and Save, and let's save our document. I'm going to call mine Simple Ball Bounce. Make sure your file format is an Animate document, so it should have .fla at the very end, and I'm going to save mine on my desktop so I can quickly and easily find it. The next thing we want to do is to draw the ball that we're going to be working with. Look over on the left-hand side to your toolbox and locate the Oval tool. Oval tool is usually hiding underneath the Rectangle tool. Just make sure it's the regular one. Then you can click and drag anywhere on this top left-hand corner and hold down the Shift to get a perfect circle. Don't worry about the color for it right now, so yours may be slightly different from what I have, but make a ball that's in the upper left-hand corner about this size. Now we can select our Selection tool, which is the black arrow, click and drag over the entire area. This will select everything. If you're working on a laptop, you can either two-finger click, or if you have a mouse, you can right-click. This will create a pop-out, and let's choose Convert to Symbol. Also notice the keyboard shortcut is F8. From here, we can give our symbol a name. We're going to call it Ball. Make sure the symbol type is set to be a graphic, and your registration is the center dot in the middle of the cluster. Everything else we're going to keep exactly the same, and we can say OK. Now let's animate our ball to move up and down. Going to our timeline, I'll zoom into it. We're going to select the 25th frame, so this is the first frame right after the first second. And let's right-click or two-finger click on it, and we're going to insert a keyframe. This should put a little dot frame right there. Let's also insert another keyframe halfway through, so I'm going to select keyframe number 13. By the way, I know it's 13 because there's the 13th frame right there. And I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut to insert a keyframe by holding down the F6 key. Now with the ball still selected and also frame 13 still selected, let's move the ball straight down towards the end or the bottom of our frame. This is going to represent the second position, so this will be the down position that the textbook is talking about. Now let's animate the ball. Go back and select the first frame in your timeline, so this is the up position. You can right-click or two-finger click on it, and we're going to create a classic tween. Notice that it will give you a purple arrow going to the middle. We'll then select this 13th frame, two-finger click on it, or right-click on it, and create a classic tween for it as well. To test our animation, and this is different from in the book, you can go to Control and down to Test. The keyboard shortcut, if you're working on a Mac, is Command Return. This will open up the little preview area, and you can see now your ball will bounce up and down along the path that we created. Once you're finished, you can hit the X arrow and close it out and return to your Animate workstation. Now let's edit the color of our ball. If you're following along in the book, I'm on page 8 under Editing inside a symbol. The first thing we need to do is open up our library panel. If you don't see it on the right-hand side, you can always go to Window and choose Open Library. Inside the library, you can find the ball symbol and a little preview at the very top. To edit this symbol, simply double-click on the icon within the symbol list, and this will take you into symbol editing mode. To select all of the ball, I've got my selection tool, the black arrow. Double-click on the ball. This will get both the fill and the stroke colors. Check out the very bottom of your tool panel. Down here you've got two different color swatches. The first one is the stroke color, and if we click on it, we get a selection of colors to pick from. I'm going to choose a red as my stroke color, and if we select the second color, this will give us a fill color. I'm going to choose a orange for my fill color. Let's make it a little bit darker orange. Whatever colors you want to select are okay. The other way we can adjust colors and even other properties of our objects is to open the Properties panel. I've got my Properties panel hiding behind my library here, and what we want to change from this is the size of the stroke. We're going to change it from 1 point to 5 points. By typing that in and hitting return, this will give us a much thicker line. Also notice you can change the color of your stroke and fill within the Properties panel as well. To go back to our main stage of our animation, look at the top left-hand corner of your stage area. Find the word Scene 1, and this will return us back to our scene. Notice our ball is now a different color, and this is true for all of the instances of your animation. The last thing they'll mention about timing is adding and removing simple frames. If I was to zoom into my timeline and select anywhere between these 1st and 13th frame, I can insert just regular frames and add more time to this area. To do this, I can go up to Insert, Timeline, and choose a frame, or I can right-click or two-finger click and choose to insert a frame, or I can even press F5 to insert a frame. All three ways add frames, and you can see how it pushes the framing and the timing down by 1 frame at a time. Same thing can be done over here. I can hold down the F5 key and insert 3 frames on this side. Now they're evened up. If you need to remove frames, there are 2 different options we can do. First, you can always go to Edit and you can undo inserting the last frames that you've done. Or if you simply need to remove frames altogether, you can highlight the frames you want. In this case, I'm going to remove these 3 frames. Then you can right-click or two-finger click on it and choose to remove those frames. This will put everything back into order. Now that we've finished this part, before moving on, let's save our document. We can go up to File and Save, and now we can move on. The next part of this exercise is going to come from Chapter 2, talking about slow in and slow out. This part of the exercise is going to begin on page 25. When you click on the blue handle of the bracket and drag it to the left, you'll start to see all of the frames as they appear in the past or before your current frame. Conversely, if you were to grab the green bracket on the right side and drag it out, you can see all of the future frames. Now, since they're on top of each other, we won't really deal with this right bracket. So select the green right bracket. Let's drag it back into the middle so that all we see is all the frames that are in the past. Let's place our cursor back on frame 1 and drag out the green frame till it goes all the way to frame 13 so we can see all of the different frames. We want to be able to add some tweening that spaces these out so that it slows at the top and speeds up as it falls down. With this first frame selected, locate your Properties panel and the Tweening sub-panel inside of it. This is going to be a little bit different from what's mentioned in the book, but there should be an area for easing, and beside Classic Ease, there should be a number 0. We're going to type in -100, or you can click on the number and drag it to the left till it says -100. Both will give you the same results. Notice how this changes the spacing of your ball as it falls. The slower action happens here at the top, and it speeds up as it falls and reaches the bottom. This is adding and easing in to your animation. Now let's add an easing out. Going back to your timeline, select that 13th frame, and you can see it looks kind of messy right now, but we'll return to our Tweening Properties panel, click on the number, and drag it to the right till it says 100. This will add an easing out to this side. In order to test it, let's go back to Control and test the movie. And now you can see it's starting to bounce much more like a natural ball. We can close this out, and now's a good time to save it. And this simple ball bounce flash file, or animate file, is what you're going to upload to Moodle for an exercise grade.